Less than 24 hours from the Terps returning to the big dance, news keeps on churning out of College Park all the way to the West Coast in Seattle, where they will be playing a Grand Canyon tomorrow. No better guest than Inside Maryland Sports' own Jeff Erman, gracious enough to join me tonight to recap all the news and separate fact from fiction. No better person. I appreciate him joining us. It's the Flex Zone. Maryland Terps versus Grand Canyon. He's going to give you a preview of what to look forward to tomorrow as well. And of course, give you the latest through cross all Maryland sports. It's the Flex Zone. Let's get to it. March Madness is here, and so are we. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and hit the bell. We're going live. We are live. Maryland news coming fast and furious. So fast and furious, it knocked out my internet connection for a brief second, but we are here, not wasting any more time. He is joining me today, gracious with his time. He's got all the latest news, all the latest rumors, and separate fact from fiction as a lot of information is coming in. Let's not waste any more time. Bringing them up, one and only, Inside Maryland Sports' own, has all your Terps information. He's going to tell you all about it each and every day, and he's going to talk to us right here on the Flex Zone, returning again. Put your hands together for Jeff Erman. Jeff, what's going on?
Glad to be back, man. I love that opening music. I need more energy like that in my podcast. I was listening to that, bobbing my head, thinking I need to liven it up.
I got you. You just let me know. I can make it happen for you. It's always fun trying to maneuver the copyright-friendly stuff. So once again, Mr. Erman.
That's a good point.
Thank you again. Did not expect this much news on the eve of the big game. Obviously, Maryland back in the tournament today, kind of overshadowed by all of the news coming out of College Park. But for those who don't know who you are, let them know who you are and how to keep up with what you do each and every day, and you do it so well.
Sure, yeah. I publish a site called InsideMDSports.com where you're on the 24/7 sports network, affiliated with CBS Sports, covering Maryland for almost 20 years now, and we do it all day, every day for the Terps diehards.
Yes, and I am one of those diehards. What is the feeling of the team, Jeff? Obviously, going to Seattle, not their first West Coast trip this year, as you know. They went up there. They obviously struggled a little bit when they went to play Washington and Oregon. But what has Kevin Willard and his team done differently, I think, to prepare them to not only be in Seattle, but potentially into San Francisco next week?
Yeah, I don't know if they've done a lot differently in terms of like preparation for road trips or things like that. I think they've just generally bonded together. Everybody kind of has a much better feel for their role, when to go, when to pass. They're more cohesive and just an all-around better, more effective team than they were, two and a half months ago when they went out west and lost those games to Oregon and Washington. So, if not for a few buzzer beaters, they'd be on something like a 6 or 7 game road winning streak at this point.
When you look at the matchup, because obviously I'm not going to sit up and say I'm an expert on Grand Canyon, probably none of us are, but this team, they have a lot of experience, a lot of seniors, they have some depth, but maybe lack a little bit in size. Could there be an advantage for the Terps with that?
Yeah, for sure. I think that'll be the game plan. Attack them inside, kick out to the open shooters when they collapse. Grand Canyon has one 6'10" guy in its starting lineup. I don't think he's as stout physically as Queen or Reese. And then it's a lot of like 6'7", 6'8" types. So Maryland should be able to take advantage of that. Uh, you know, Grand Canyon is a good defensive team. I think they're in the 60s nationally in defensive efficiency. So that's where their strength lies. Offensively, they don't shoot the three very well. They're not like a super high octane team, but what they do have is a lot of experience. They got a ton of guys who have played in multiple NCAA tournaments, whereas Maryland, usually in this scenario of a Big Ten team against a team from the WAC, you would expect the Big Ten team to be the one with all the NCAA experience. But Maryland doesn't have that much of it, so I think that's something to watch. See if they come out jittery as opposed to GCU, which should be pretty, comfortable and in a familiar setting.
Do you think maybe the tide could be turning, Jeff? Like you said, all the major losses were buzzer beaters. Could it be a situation where in March it finally goes the other way? Because this team, I got to give them credit. When they were down 15 in Michigan, I was watching the game live. I was a little worried. They fight to the end, and they've had some time off. I think maybe this could help them potentially. But what do you think about that overall? Could they maybe be better off because of some of those losses for a situation like a March Madness run?
I mean, you would certainly hope so. That's been the theme of their losses all year. They haven't lost any of those 8 games by more than 6 points. Most of them have been 2 or 3 point games. The last 4 losses have all been buzzer beaters. So you would hope so. On the flip side, you wonder if it's fluky that they've had this collection of last second losses, or if there's something in the execution that's kind of dragging them down in close games. It's really hard to say, but at this point, it feels like if and when they do lose in the tournament, nobody would be surprised if it's on a buzzer beater, as much as I hate to say it for the fans.
Looking at this team, Jeff, and from a fan and as a person who covers it daily like yourself, they're in a, I would say, favorite bracket. We know what could loom down the line, but if you look at this first weekend, winnable games, whether it is obviously against Grand Canyon, but potentially against Memphis. I know the trendy pick is now a lot of people picking Colorado State. Uh, Maryland matches up well, I think, with both of those teams as well, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. That Colorado State team is, like you mentioned, a very trendy upset pick. I think they might actually be favored in that game despite being the 12. Memphis has a major injury, obviously, they're dealing with. And Colorado State has one of the, brightest young rising coaches in the country. Nico Medved, very popular name, guy who I'm sure will be popping up at a major program before too long. So that one in the second round, that or Memphis for that matter, should be a tougher test. But I think Maryland's a 10-point favorite over GCU. But the reality is, when you've had a season like Maryland's had, and then you get first 2 rounds that you're going to be favored significantly, and you just have to take care of business, especially at this point when the program is so close to pushing across that hill that they've been climbing up for so long with this, multi-decade span of having one Sweet 16 in that whole time period. So now, you had a great regular season, but now you need to finish it the right way.
Well, Jeff, you're such a professional. You mentioned coaching before I could even bring it up. An elephant in the room. Last week after the fiasco to court buzzer beater, you start hearing rumblings coming out about a possible extension, and I think even you were like, "Well, nothing's a done deal. Don't don't write it in pen." What is going on? I'm gonna just start with Willard. I mean, because he's has the most wins in 3 seasons, whether fans love him or disdain what he's done. He has taken him to the tournament before. What is the connection with Villanova? Is that still an attractive job? Is there really smoke to where this could be potential fire even?
Yeah, there was a lot of smoke for a few days. I'm not really sure that he was actually their top choice or is their top choice. It feels a little bit like some people close to Willard maybe had a little bit of a hand. You know how it works with agents and back channels and people leaking things. And, I think that might have been the case here, to get Maryland into motion. And it worked. Damon Evans came out and offered him a new contract. Willard revealed today on Sunday, right before Selection Sunday, to try to get him locked up because he was, worried about all this Villanova talk. And Willard revealed today that, he turned it down because he's focused on the tournament. I don't know if it was fully because he's focused on the tournament or because he's was wanting to be done working for Damon Evans, and he knew that if no deal gets done, the pressure is going to build, and it pretty much played out exactly that way. Now Evans is expected to leave for the Southern Methodist AD job. I don't think, Willard came out, and I know he told his team today that he's coming back next year, so I expect he'll be back next year. I think he played his cards pretty well, pretty ruthlessly, but pretty well to now, where he's going to have a new AD next year at Maryland, and he'll be back barring anything surprising.
With Willard, I think this team, I know a lot of people are freaking out. I think this team is built for that type of information, Jeff, because they are a veteran team. Obviously not Derek Queen, but we know he's as good as gone. A lot of guys are on their last leg potentially. I think this team is locked in, regardless of the outside noise, being on the West Coast. And where do you see possibly the future of this basketball program? Are they going to get more NIL? How is the recruiting kind of going? I know they're going to have some
Yeah.
needs, especially some bigs coming up.
Yeah, that's a really, fitting question for today. That was Willard's biggest complaint, that the program has not been funded well enough to his standards, at least, especially when you look around the corner, next year, these programs are going to be able to spend $20 million on payroll for across all sports. And, Maryland was looking at about $4 million for basketball, which when you look at their starting backcourt, they're two stars that they can bring back next year, assuming Queen is gone, like you said. Jacoby Gillespie and Rodney Rice, you're probably looking at $2 million, maybe a little more right there. So if you have a $4 million budget, that's obviously not going to cut it. So that's why, Willard was really pressing on this. So I would assume they'll have more money. I think it's a very attractive spot for a lot of guys. If you are a big man and you see what they did with Julian Reese and Derek Queen this year, and you see there's literally not a single, let alone not proven, there's not even a guy who's done anything at the college level in the post right now. So that's all the playing time in the world to offer. Same thing goes at that 3 spot where Selton Miguel is going to be out of eligibility. So, I think what they've done this year is kind of given them some good branding, and, you never know how the portal is going to go. 2 years ago, they didn't get the right guys. They ended up going 16 and 17. This past year, they nail it, and we see where they are now.
I guess we can go to Mr. Evans, the AD. Where did this come from in SMU? I know he is recently announced on the college football playoff committee. Could that have anything to do with maybe some of these inklings? And how does that really work? And where could that leave Maryland? They would need what, a new AD, I guess?
Yeah, they are going to need a new AD, unless somehow it falls through and returns, which I think Kevin Willard intentionally went out of his way to make sure that there's no room for return today. But yeah, they will need an AD. That doesn't happen fast. These usually, it's a bureaucratic function, takes some time, so that they're going to have to put in an interim AD until that happens, which is not the best time for that to be happening right at the end of the year. March Madness, you've got the transfer portal. And in terms of Evans, I think it's a couple things. I mean, he had security, he had a deal through 2029, but this falling out with Willard kind of weakened his position. And then, his football coach, Mike Loxley, is coming off a rough year, 1-8 in the Big Ten last year. So another tough year there would be hard to withstand. I'm sure he doesn't want to be put in the position of reviewing whether Mike stays or goes. So I think timing wise, it kind of makes sense for him. And, the fit might make a little more sense for him too. SMU, I don't know if they know what a basketball is there. I think it's just that that round shaped thing that you throw around until it's time for spring practice. So it's perfect for Damon as a not that he viewed football basketball like that, but he is he played at Georgia, 4-year starter, was AD there, so he is a football guy at heart. So it might be a better fit for him too.
Was it just the case, and we may be just speculating, of just them maybe not being on the same page? Was it just something that has deteriorated? Because even recently he made comments, no excuse about losing. You're good out there and do your job. Could there have been some dissension maybe behind the scenes between the two?
I do think that those comments bothered Willard, from what I was told. But I think the biggest thing is really just the funding. A lot of money being put into football, which you have to do when you're in the Big Ten to have any chance of competing, because it's just, it's impossible to survive in the Big Ten, even if you are recruiting well. If you're not a name brand school, Ohio State, Penn State, or even on that next level down, Wisconsin, Michigan State. So it's a tough spot for Evans, but I think Willard felt like not enough of that money was coming to the basketball program. He's a basketball school, Big East kind of guy, where you don't even think about things like football. And so it's a new world to him. And I think it was frustrating for him not to have more resources, especially, with this, as college sports becomes so much more of a money game. It's so much more important than ever, for his long-term sustainability. He wants to be given the best chance. And I think he felt like the budget just wasn't where it should have been.
Real quick to the women, I know they open up in College Park this weekend. Is it inevitable that they're going to run into South Carolina and let chips fall where they may?
I mean, it's hard to project like big things for them, because this was one of their more down years. They started off really hot. I can't remember where they were, something like 11-0, had some injury issues in midseason, really cooled off there. You can still never bet against Brenda Freeze's team, though. It almost seems like she has a bye to the Sweet 16 every year. Last year, obviously, being an aberration. So they still are a dangerous team. Taylor Smichael's really, I think one of the better players out there. But this year, this is one of the first years in a while where they're not like that number 1, number 2 seed.
I want to ask you real quick before I get you out of here, quick couple notes on football. I know they are going to Ford Field to play Michigan State coming up this coming season. What could that do possibly for the program back on the big stage? I think they haven't been there since the bowl game. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's never bad to be in front of new, like, metropolitan audiences where there's a lot of recruits. They've actually recruited Michigan was never a spot they recruited, obviously. Even in the early Big Ten years, they've gotten a few players from there. Recently, Nolan Ray, their running back for next year, who I think is going to be a star, is from Detroit. So never bad to be seen on those stages, but biggest deal is just win. After last year was a pretty big fall off. The fans are kind of lukewarm at best at this point, so they could really use a rebound season.
What are they doing coaching? I know it's been a lot of movement. I know it's been kind of quiet. Are they pretty much set for the most part with Loxley moving forward?
Yeah, they're pretty much set. Most of the movement finished about a month ago. They moved several position coaches to different positions. They brought in a few new guys. Obviously, they're going to have new coordinators on both sides of the ball. Josh Gaddis is gone after 2 years. That just didn't work out between him and Loxley on offense. On defense, Brian Williams, who was there the past few years and did a good job. Just last year, the defense fell off pretty abruptly and really struggled all year. So they're replacing him with a guy named Ted Monachino, who was the defensive line coach at UNC last year, a longtime NFL guy. So the staff has gotten a little more older, a little more veteran. Pep Hamilton, an offensive coordinator, is a proven guy who's been an NFL offensive coordinator and tutored several star NFL quarterbacks. I think Justin Herbert included. So I think on offense, it's an upgrade there. And then defensively, we'll have to wait and see, because Monachino's never been a coordinator before on this level. And then you're banking on all these moves that you made being the right ones, along with a few young guys who are promoted being ready to step up, because they're recruiting really well. You can't really question the recruiting, but none of that's going to matter if you only win 3 or 4 games.
Is the spring game still going to go on as planned? I know there's been some rumblings about that might be changing.
Yeah, it sounds like it is. I was thinking maybe it wouldn't, because of this trend of coaches, excuse me, ending the spring game because they don't want other coaches spying and poaching their rosters and things like that. And that's something that Mike Locksley is, wary of. So I figured there was a chance, but last I heard last week, they said it's still going on. There's been no date announced yet, but it sounds like it will happen.
As far as recruits, pretty much locked in. Nobody jumping ship. Anybody? Nothing crazy happening.
No, the big name, obviously, Zion Ely, the 5-star defensive end who's committed to them. The big news was, he shut down his recruitment. He was going to take these official visits to Auburn and Penn State and all these other schools, and he went ahead and shut that down, which is huge for them. Obviously, nothing guarantees the guy's going to sign 8 months or whatever it might be away. But if he's shutting it down and not taking visits, that gives you a much better chance there. So that's good news. And then the focus, in terms of the big splash guys now is on another 5-star, Emmanuel Iheanacho, a tackle from Georgetown Prep in Maryland. He's the number 2 tackle in the country. So, for Maryland, getting 1 5-star is extremely rare. Getting 2, I'm not sure if it's ever happened, but they have a really good chance to make it happen.
And I know basketball, a couple decisions coming up. Maryland on a few lists, but maybe not likely any. Can you speak to any recruiting on the basketball side too?
Yeah, Chance Mallory, a point guard from Charlottesville, Virginia, is announcing in the next few days. He was originally committed to Virginia and then, opened things back up after Tony Bennett retired abruptly there. My gut feeling is he'll go ahead and probably commit back to Virginia again. They don't have a coach yet, but I suspect they will soon. Probably Ryan Odom, whose VCU team lost in the NCAA tournament today, and he has a relationship with the family, so I think he'll end up there. Otherwise, it's mostly, waiting for the transfer portal. They haven't really been super aggressive chasing after high school kids this year. They have 1 commitment, Chris Jeffrey, a point guard from Mount Zion Prep in Lanham, Maryland, a few miles up the road from College Park. Other than that, I think the game plan now is to wait it out and see what's available in the portal, because if you're trying to fill 3 starting spots, it's very hard to do that with freshmen these days. You need to get guys who can produce. So once they're done with the tournament, I think that's when news will really start moving fast.
Well, Jeff, I know you've been busy all day. I don't want to take too much more of your time. What happens on tomorrow afternoon? And how far does Maryland go? And if you want to give us your Final Four, maybe national champion, I know it's been a little crazy already, but who do you have or who do you like maybe to go far?
So I think Maryland should win fairly comfortably. I don't know if they'll run them out of the gym, maybe by 12, 13 points. Second round, I think they'll win against either one of those teams, but those will be a little more dangerous, especially Colorado State if they win. In terms of the national scene, it's hard. There's so many good schools coming out of the SEC this year. I kept looking at all those and considering them. I ended up taking Houston just because I can't pick Duke. I've never had a strong.
I was hoping they put Maryland on the same side as Duke. I would have loved to seen that just one time for the one time.
All for the last couple months of the season, I just had this gut feeling like they were going to set that up. But yeah, that didn't happen. But Duke is obviously the most popular choice. I don't like picking the popular choice. That's boring, especially when it's Duke. I'm never going to pick Duke, to be completely honest. So I'm going with Kelvin Sampson. I'm going with Houston to cut down the nets. They've been knocking on the door seemingly every year for 3 or 4 years. So I've got this as their year. But wouldn't be surprising if one of those 5 really good SEC teams wins it, or Duke, obviously.
Jeff, again, I cannot thank you enough for your time. I know it's been a crazy busy day that we probably didn't even expect today. How can the people keep up with you, and what do you have working on the channel, and what are you going to be doing for the tournament? I know you guys on the YouTube are going to probably be doing some things after the game, maybe some post-game. Let the people know how to follow you and keep up with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we will have post-game shows inside MD Sports on YouTube, on our podcast, IMS Radio, Twitter. I am at Jeff_ERMANN. And then, as I said, site is InsideMDSports.com. Tons of behind the scenes news you won't get anywhere else. Full coverage wall to wall, especially as we enter March Madness and then the portal and then the football portal.
Jeff, I can't thank you enough. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you having me, man, anytime.
Yes, sir. We're going to do this again, hopefully after a nice sustained Terps run and as we get ready for the spring game. But we'll be listening in and checking you out with the fellas on Inside MD Sports, the website, and the YouTube. Once again, Jeff Erman. I don't know if you'll be able to get some sleep tonight, but at least if you can, try to get a little bit. We appreciate all your hard work, my brother.
Appreciate you having me.
Thanks you, Jeff. Once again, Jeff Erman of Inside MD Sports. Go check him out. Go follow him. It is the best thing you can do. Following Maryland is the best thing you can do. Keeping up with the Terps, recruiting, news, things like that that you won't find anywhere else. Appreciate Jeff. I know it's been a busy, crazy day for him to spend some time with me to talk a little Terps. Obviously, you heard from him, the Kevin Willard and Damon Evans relationship may be a little strained to a degree. So it could lead to Kevin Willard being the guy to stay and Damon Evans, as he mentioned, going to SMU, more of a football school, more NIL dollars. They went to the playoffs this past year. So his focus is more football. He'll get paid, obviously, money, and everybody's happy. Willard can get his money. They can get the NIL. He can get his new practice facility, be one of the, 10 highest paid coaches in the league or in college basketball. And then from there, hopefully continue to bring this relevancy back to the Maryland Terps. As fans, we don't want this team to have to start over with a new coach. I'd rather start over with a new athletic director, someone who knows the assignment, is going to be able to get the resources, the NIL dollars, be able to network and get the things that the resources that the school needs to be successful. So I'm cool with it. Kevin Willard has the most wins in his first 3 seasons as a coach in Maryland history. I don't think Villanova is going to be able to do what Maryland can do for him long term. I think he stays, as mentioned. Damon Evans is as good as gone. I believe he mentioned it earlier. Let me see if I have yep, I can actually pull up the clip here. We can watch it together. Let me see. Let's see if I can pull it up. I'll put up and we'll play on the eve of the game against Grand Canyon. Let's see what he had to say. Let's see if I can.
It took you guys 3 questions.
I want to ask about the basketball too.
Okay.
But obviously your name has come up as a candidate for various positions because Maryland has done so well this year. Have you felt compelled to address any of that with your team at all about your future at Maryland?
Yeah, I've addressed it with them directly. I'll say this. This is Damon and I talked on Sunday night right before Selection Sunday. He gave me a term sheet right before Selection Sunday. I really wasn't focused on it. Been focused on this team and this. Damon's talked to my agent. I talked to Damon this morning at length about where we are. Obviously, it's difficult right now because I think we know his situation. He's probably going to SMU, so it's kind of tough to negotiate with somebody that's maybe not here. But I need to make fundamental changes to the program. That's what I'm focused on right now. That's why probably a deal hasn't got done, because I want to see, I need to see fundamental changes done. I want this program to be great. I want it to be the best in the country. I want to win a national championship, but there's things that need to change. When you're at a place for 3 years and you put your heart and soul into it, you kind of sit there and say, okay, wait a second, for us to be really successful, X, Y, and Z needs to change. And first and foremost, I need to make sure that we are where we are with NIL, and rev share is not where we've been with NIL in the past 2 years. We've been one of the worst, if not lowest, in the NIL in the last 2 years. So that's first and foremost. I also have to make a fundamental change where I can do the things that I want to do with my program. I wanted to spend an extra night in New York this year to celebrate Christmas with my team, and I was told that we can't do that because it's too expensive. So I don't know how we can be a top tier program and I can't spend one extra night in New York because it's too expensive. So there's fundamental things I'm fighting for my team and my program. It's not so much about me. I want to make sure that whatever we do going forward, we're successful, and we're successful at the highest rate. So I'm confident that we'll get things done. It's a little difficult right now. I'm not going to lie. But I'm confident that no matter who we're negotiating with at the end of the day, this program is going to be in a great spot. And that's really my focus, is this tournament, this team, and this program.
There you have it. There you heard it from the man himself. He pretty much alluded to the fact that Damon Evans is as good as gone. He mentioned that he did offer him a term sheet, a deal in principle to agree to an extension, but didn't have the NIL dollars, didn't have the freedom and power that he needs to do things like have his team have more time to stay in a certain city for an extra night to be there together. They're one of the bottom, he said, in NIL dollars. If you're not spending money in the NIL and college athletics at the Division One level, you can only get but so far. Kevin Willard is clearly advocating for that. He's pretty much calling the Terps cheap without saying it out loud, and they are pretty much cheap. They are being very cheap. You can't let these guys stay in New York one more night. I'm sure you can pull that money out your ass. So he clearly wants more NIL money because if you don't have NIL money, you're not going to be able to win. You're in the Big Ten. You need to be able to spend. Jeff just mentioned your backcourt alone for basketball is over $2 million. So if you only had $2 million to work with, that's not going to get you much in today's landscape of college basketball. And now with the new revenue sharing agreement, the schools can pay the players directly. So I'm not worried about an athletic director. I'd rather have a head coach than an athletic director. A guy that can recruit, a guy that can promote, a guy that can develop players and win in March, win in the Big Ten. We can get an athletic director, we can get an interim guy, we can get the dean or the president or one of these boosters or alumni or famous individuals who are connected to the school to get the deal done. I think Kevin Willard deserves to be paid as one of the top 10 coaches in basketball. I think he is trying to make his imprint on this team, on this organization, but he needs help. It takes money to win in college basketball. They struck out 2 years ago in the transfer portal. They hit big this year, getting Miguel, getting Gillespie, getting Rice. They have talent. They're bringing in some guys. Do they need to add more? Yes, but that is not going to come at a cheap rate. This is the national stage. This is the perfect opportunity for the Terps to get exposure, to get more eyes on recruits, on guys who could be transferring. The transfer portal opens this coming week. Don't you think guys are going to see Maryland and say, oh, they're doing pretty good? Oh, if I'm a big man, I see what they did with Julian Reese. I see what they did for Derek Queen. I would love for that to be me. Derek Queen going to be a lottery pick. That does great things for the program and Kevin Willard because he's saying, you come play for me, I can get you to the NBA if you're a top recruit, a McDonald's All-American. And Kevin Willard seems to be a player's coach. He seems to play and advocate for his team to have the best, and they deserve to have the best. As mentioned, you're all the way in San Francisco. You're all the way you're in Seattle, potentially in San Francisco next weekend. Do they have the adequate resources that they need to be successful? Do they have the resources and things to make them the best team while they're not home and on the other side of the country? Like I said, thankfully they've been to the West Coast before this season. Didn't go well, but I think they learned a lot. They left on Wednesday. They seem to be settled in. I think it's just them against the world mentality. This team pretty much knows this is the last time they're all going to be together. So hearing that Kevin Willard is possibly, I don't know, not going to be here or is going to be here, it doesn't affect them. They're focused on the here and now. They win, they go far, they get more money essentially. It helps them. It helps their next level or post Maryland careers. And guys like Gillespie and Rice, who are going to be back, can ask for more NIL money. But you got to get the money first. You're getting the donations, you're getting things. If you're not working with $10+ million for basketball, because like we just said, it's $2+ million just for your backcourt. So you still gotta pay 3, 4, 5 other guys at least. And Maryland's only 5 deep. Yeah, they play 7 or 8 guys, but they don't get productions really from them. And that's going to be one of the keys I'm looking forward to tomorrow against Grand Canyon. Can they start fast? Can they force turnovers? Can they stay out of foul trouble? Can they win the rebounding battle? They got dominated last time on the glass. Can they win points in the paint? Can they defend the three? And can they make a decent amount of threes? Derek Queen, Julian Reese, can you guys give me 30 and 20? Miguel, can you give me 10 and 15? Gillespie, can you give me 10 and 15? Rice, can you give me 10 and 15? Can this team score 80 to 90 points each tournament game? Because they're going to need to sustain this. They don't have to play every day, but you play Friday, you'll play Sunday. You play Sunday, you have some time off until next week. I think this team can come out of this weekend in the Sweet 16. I think the Sweet 16 is the minimum for this team. Then from there, you let the chips fall where they may. You may have to play Florida. Okay, let's see what you got. You still got to go out and play. You still got to show up. And Derek Queen, Julian Reese, those two individuals, if nobody else is coming to play, bringing the aggressive, mean streak, going and playing with everything they have, hitting the glass, blocking shots, stealing the ball, not being afraid to get to the free throw line, making the free throws. And defensively, you cannot have any lapses of guys going coast to coast. I know they may have been tired. I know they may have been exhausted. They were down 15 and came back. But that is why, in those type of situations, and that's why I'm hoping the tide can start to turn, because they've had 4 buzzer beaters. They've had the Northwestern. They've had the Ohio States. They've had the Michigan States. They've had the Michigans. Now let's see if the tide can turn. What have you learned from these situations in closing situations? Because against Grand Canyon, you may be able to pull away. You may be able to run them out the gym like you did Illinois. You may be able to slide past Memphis. You may be able to beat Colorado State, who's a trendy upset pick. But when you got to play Florida potentially, when you got to play the creme de la creme, the Blue Bloods, a team that can win it all, you have to be playing your A game. You have to be playing aggressive on both ends. And I think that's where Maryland is going to make or break their run in the tournament. If they play locked in, they play focused, they're playing mistake-free basketball, and they're bringing that intensity on the defensive end, and they're playing inside out, not settling for threes, but then allowing the inside play to allow them to open up the outside on the perimeter, and they can make timely shots, that will determine how far they go. I think Kevin Willard is going to have to coach his ass off too. He's going to have to make adjustments offensively. Let's see some diversity. Let's see you guys switch some things up on the offensive end. I don't want to see guys just standing around. I don't want to see hero ball. I don't want to see guys going 1 for 5. I want to see guys giving up good shots for great shots. I want to see player movement, ball movement, screens, moving without the ball, hard cuts to the basket. That is going to be the key. Like I said, Grand Canyon, they have a deep rotation. An effective bench can trouble me against the Terps. I don't think this is going to be an easy game by no means. 8 Antelopes, this is Grand Canyon, average more minutes per game than the Terps' most used bench piece, which is Deshaun Harris-Smith at 15.3 points per game. All 8 of them score at least 6 points per game. Reese is back. He was the only person of the last team that made it to the tournament. If Reese can stay out of foul trouble, we need the best version of Julian Reese on both ends of the floor, especially defensively, but offensively, we have to see him aggressive as well. It's been 2 years since that game, thankfully, so he's bigger, he's stronger, he's overall a better leader, and I think that will show up on this run that they are going on, getting ready to embark on. Jacoby Gillespie, he is one of the best defensive guards in the country. Now, he does have a tough matchup. Grand Canyon has 2 good guards, Grant Foster and Rayshawn Harrison, 6'7" and 6'4". So how do they address the bigger guards? That is also something that worries me, because Grand Canyon has bigger guards, but they don't shoot well. So they shoot 31.5% from 3-point percentage, which is 309th in the country, and the Terps are 37.2, being 35th. It's crazy how much a 6% difference can have you. If you're 31, you're at 309, you're 37, you're 35th. So it's a make or miss league. We say that all the time, and that's a perfect example of it right there. The Antelopes excel at ending possessions prematurely. They are 11th in the country with 9.4 steals per game, 17th with 5.1 blocks per game. Just going to have to keep that ball security that they had in the Big Ten tournament, but protect the basketball, play mistake-free basketball. Some guys to look forward to, as mentioned, Duke Brennan, junior forward, 6'10", number 24. He's a defensive asset, but he's going to be guarding Julian Reese and Derek Queen as well. He's played in all but 4 games the last 2 years, averaging 10 points and 9.2 rebounds. Tyon Grant Foster, he's a graduate guard, 6'7", number 7. He was Grand Canyon star last year, averaging 20.1 points per game on his way to WAC Player of the Year. And he had a spectacular March. He's 25. Took a little bit of a step back, being 14.5 this season, and he missed a month before the conference tournament with injury, but he's back and looking to make an impact. Jacoby Coles. So you got Jacoby Gillespie and Jacoby Coles, a senior forward, 6'8", number 24. So I think they have 4 seniors on this team. So a veteran team a team that's been to the tournament a few times and that's played together. He wasn't with the Antelopes last year. He came from TCU. He's a transfer, but he became the focal point, averaging a team high 14.8 points, 52.1% shooting percentage, and 5.7 rebounds, 2.2 assists. And he's just one of two players to start every game for Grand Canyon, the Antelopes. Bryce Drew, an up and coming coach, 5th year there. He returned most of the team, added more. He had a starting lineup, 4 seniors, 93rd in the country in Ken Palm rankings, made it through the WAC with a relative ease. They're on a regular 13 seed also. They beat number 5 seed St. Mary's in the first round a year ago. They led number 4 seed Alabama with over 5 minutes left, but collapsed late. Now, they came from Division 1. They came out of Division 2 in 2013, 2014. They won 4 of their last 5 WAC Western Athletics Conference tournaments, 2021, 2023, 2024, and 2025. And they made it to the tournament each of those years as well. Those are things that I'm looking forward to at this game. As mentioned, win the rebounding battle, win points in the paint, stay out of foul trouble, play mistake-free basketball, limit your turnovers, force turnovers, and I think Queen and Reese combine for 30 and 20, make your free throws, and I think make the proper adjustments from a coaching standpoint. I'd like to see maybe the press a little more early on against Grand Canyon, throw them off, bring pressure, force them to have to beat it, and then maybe go into that zone, then maybe go into a little man-to-man. So things like that, switching the defenses, using more versatility and differentiation offensively is going to be very, very important as well. I do think Maryland wins, and I do think they win by, I'm going to say Maryland wins by 7. I'm going to say 85 to 77. 77? Yeah, 70, 85 to 77. So, but we will be live tomorrow. If you are new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that bell. And you sound off down below. You let me know what you're looking forward to seeing tomorrow. And so far, early on today, see, March Madness is here. March Madness is indeed here. And as you can see, we had a fun day already. As you can look at some of the game scores. Let's see here. Tennessee beat Washington. Big win from number C. Creighton beat Louisville to start the day. I was incorrect on that, but Creighton moving on. BYU beating VCU. I was incorrect on that. BYU moving forward again. McNeese in the upset of the day beat Clemson 69-67. Purdue over High Point. High Point was a hot, trendy pick coming in. Longest win streak in the nation. Purdue, led by Big Ten Player of the Year, gets it done. The national runner-up last year, Purdue with a win. Wisconsin rolls over Montana 85-66. Auburn started slow, but they win by 20 over Alabama State in their first NCAA tournament after their first NCAA tournament win. Houston defeats SIU Edwardsville. No contest there. Gonzaga rolls over Georgia 69-68. You see, we still have UNC Wilmington, Texas Tech, UC San Diego, and Michigan, Omaha, St. John's, Utah State, and UCLA. Drake, who is a trendy upset pick, who I picked as well. I think I made them or had them in the Sweet 16. They're up over Missouri 30-23. Mr. Sturts getting it done with 14 points. Look out for him. Texas A&M over Yale 54-45. I have Texas A&M and Arkansas and Texas in a battle, 1-point game. I picked Arkansas 62-61, so we'll see how it plays out. But make sure, if you guys haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that bell. Let me know what you're looking forward to seeing and what's happening tomorrow. Join us tomorrow. We'll be live from Maryland, Grand Canyon. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that bell. Big games going on all around with the NCAA tournament. And of course, we'll be here Maryland tomorrow. Maryland versus Grand Canyon at 4:30. That's next time tomorrow as well. And we'll be live. Check us out. Subscribe button, hit the bell. Only place giving you sports how you want it, when you need it. Getting ready to get out of here. Make sure if you haven't already, vote on the poll. Let us know what you're looking forward to seeing. And we shall see what happens tomorrow for Maryland and Grand Canyon. I'll see you live for that as well. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, everybody. Peace.